What happens when privilege clashes with injustice high above the clouds? On a routine flight, a black woman CEO is unexpectedly removed from her VIP seat, simply to make way for a white passenger. This moment of blatant discrimination sets off a chain reaction that will shake the entire airline industry to its core. On a crowded flight filled with passengers settling into their seats, the atmosphere was typical of any busy journey. Among those on board was a woman of distinction, a successful CEO quietly seated in the VIP section reserved for select travelers. The cabin hummed with the usual sounds of flight attendants attending to last-minute requests and passengers preparing for takeoff. Suddenly, the calm was shattered. A white passenger, insisting on having the VIP seat, approached the crew with a demand that stunned everyone. Without hesitation, the flight attendants moved to comply, approaching the woman and ordering her to leave her seat. The woman's face betrayed a mix of shock and disbelief as she was asked to stand and move to a less comfortable spot in the plane. Passengers nearby watched in stunned silence, some whispering in confusion, others openly questioning what was happening. The unfairness of the moment was palpable. Here was a woman, not only a respected leader in her field, but someone entitled to that seat, being pushed aside for the convenience of another passenger. The racial undertones were unmistakable, the contrast between the calm authority she carried and the sudden erasure of her right to occupy her space. The air thickened with tension, a mix of embarrassment for the crew's actions, anger for the blatant injustice, and a deep sadness that such discrimination still played out so publicly. As the woman reluctantly complied, many passengers exchanged uneasy glances, unable to reconcile what they had just witnessed with the ideals of equality and respect. This was more than a mere seating dispute. It was a stark reminder of the subtle and overt ways bias can manifest, even in places where it seems least expected. The incident left everyone with a lingering question: how could this happen on a flight in 2025? As the plane continued its journey, the atmosphere among the passengers had shifted dramatically. Many who witnessed the incident were visibly upset, some openly protesting the treatment of the woman who had been forced from her seat. Several passengers discreetly pulled out their phones, capturing videos and photos that quickly began to circulate online. Within hours, social media erupted with outrage. Hashtags condemning the airline's actions and highlighting racial discrimination soared across platforms, sparking widespread conversations about injustice and privilege. The story did not stay confined to social media. Major news outlets picked up the report, framing it as a glaring example of racial bias in the modern era. Headlines questioned the airline's policies and the crew's decision, while commentators debated the broader implications for corporate responsibility and equality. In response, the airline issued a statement, a vague apology acknowledging the discomfort caused, but carefully avoiding any admission of wrongdoing or accountability. This half-hearted response only fueled further anger and disappointment among the public. Civil rights organizations and activists quickly joined the chorus of criticism, demanding a full investigation and real consequences for those responsible. They highlighted the incident as part of a larger pattern of systemic discrimination that needed urgent attention. Meanwhile, the woman at the center of the controversy remained composed, using her platform to speak out. In a calm and powerful public statement, she emphasized the importance of dignity and respect for all individuals, regardless of race or status. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring many to reflect on the everyday realities of prejudice and the need for change. This incident, initially a painful moment of injustice, had ignited a movement, forcing the airline and the public to confront uncomfortable truths. It became clear that this was not just about one flight or one passenger. It was about the ongoing struggle for equality in every corner of society. The airline quickly found itself at the center of a growing storm. Customers who once trusted the brand expressed their outrage openly, many vowing never to fly with the company again. Shareholders, alarmed by the negative publicity and potential financial fallout, demanded swift action. Facing pressure from every side, the airline launched an internal investigation to uncover the full story behind the incident. As details emerged, it became clear that the crew involved had not only acted improperly, but had done so within a broader context of biased policies and a culture that allowed discrimination to go unchecked. Leaks from the investigation revealed troubling information. Crew members had repeatedly shown preferential treatment to certain passengers based on race and social status, and management had failed to address these issues despite prior complaints. The backlash intensified as the public learned about these systemic failures. In response, the airline made the decisive move to terminate the entire crew involved in the incident. This action was meant to signal accountability, but many argued it was only the first step in a much larger process of reform. The incident exposed deep flaws, not just within this one airline, but across the industry as a whole. Questions were raised about how VIP seating is managed, how crew are trained to handle conflicts, and how airlines ensure that discrimination does not influence decisions affecting passenger treatment. Industry leaders began to discuss the need for new standards and stricter oversight to prevent such incidents from happening again. Alongside the corporate fallout, legal action loomed. Advocates for the woman involved and civil rights groups explored the possibility of lawsuits targeting the airline for racial discrimination and emotional distress. They also pushed for regulatory reforms at the government level, calling for clearer policies that protect passengers' rights and hold airlines accountable for discriminatory behavior. These efforts underscored the wider implications of the incident, transforming it from a single episode into a catalyst for change. Throughout this turbulent period, the woman at the heart of the controversy remained a powerful voice for justice. She used her platform not only to call out the wrongdoing she endured, but also to advocate for systemic change. Her leadership extended beyond the personal, challenging the airline industry and corporate America to examine their practices and commit to genuine diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Her calm determination inspired others to speak up and demand accountability in their own spheres. What began as an act of injustice on a single flight evolved into a movement pushing for reform across an entire industry. The incident forced companies and regulators alike to confront uncomfortable truths about bias and privilege, proving that real change often starts with one courageous individual refusing to be silenced. This incident illuminated a harsh reality that many still face daily. Racial bias is not confined to isolated moments, but is deeply embedded in both everyday life and corporate environments. The story of a black woman CEO being forcibly removed from her rightful seat exposed how prejudice and discrimination can surface in even the most unexpected places, like the skies above us. It revealed the invisible barriers that persist, despite progress made over decades, reminding society that equality is not yet a given, but a continuous struggle. The public reaction to this event sparked widespread conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion far beyond the airline industry. People from all walks of life began examining how systemic bias influences their workplaces, communities, and interactions. The incident served as a mirror reflecting uncomfortable truths, encouraging companies and institutions to take a hard look at their own practices and policies. In response, airlines and other industries started revising their guidelines, investing in comprehensive training programs aimed at recognizing and eliminating unconscious bias. Accountability mechanisms were strengthened to ensure that discrimination of any kind would no longer be tolerated or swept under the rug. This shift marked a meaningful step toward creating more inclusive environments where respect and dignity are upheld for everyone, regardless of race or background. The woman at the center of the controversy became a symbol of resilience and courage. Her dignity had been challenged publicly, yet she refused to be defined by that moment of injustice. Instead, she used it as a platform to inspire change and empower others to speak out against unfair treatment. Her experience reminded the world that progress often comes from confronting discomfort and demanding better, not settling for the status quo. While the journey toward true equality is ongoing, this story offered a hopeful glimpse of what is possible when individuals stand firm in their principles. It showed how one person's courage can ignite a movement, encouraging others to join in, pushing for a fairer, more just society. The incident, painful as it was, ultimately became a catalyst for growth and transformation. It proved that even when injustice takes flight, it is the courage to stand that lands change.